We're in the village of Drinkstone, which is about 5 or 6 miles outside Bury St Edmunds, and this is the Church of All Saints. Another lovely setting, but surrounded by houses. An old telephone box there. Lovely flowers. So we've got an entrance here with a gate. Looks like it's permanently open. And we go under a beautiful canopy tree. The church itself is flint, but the tower looks like brick. The churchyard is extended around the back, but in the front it has no wall, it just slopes down into the road, and there aren't as many graves here. And a pretty impressive monument stroke grave here. There again it looks like damage or just age to this. Looks like this one is in need of some repair. It's a shame. So the church tower is actually brick. So we suspect that it was added or rebuilt, possibly in the mid-19th century. And there again we probably had an earlier, smaller church. Though it's brick, the style is the same as many of the flint ones that we've seen around. Gravel around the side of the church. Little bench to sit. The side of the church has got some monuments on it. And it always amazes me how we've got people that were buried right next to the entrance. This area here looks as if it's been cleared. I'm not certain the gravestones are lying down.
William Nunn, who died in January 1866, aged 59 years, and Mary Ann, his wife, who died in April 1876, aged 61 years.
I don't know the reason that they're down on the ground, and this area has been worked on in some way. Some headstones here that again look beautifully ornate and have been here for some time. I doubt if we can read what's on them. They're beautiful ones. Not as many headstones in this churchyard as in others. Here's a very ornate grave. '18.
1892.
And that's marble. That's somebody quite important or wealthy. There's a more quieter setting out around the back of the church with more headstones and graves. A bench for sitting. Birds singing. But we're in the middle of a fairly large village here. And therefore the road's used, and there's the sound of cars coming by more frequently than we find in some of these Suffolk churches. Can't read that, can you?
No. Esther Renson died September 1951, aged 84. Robert Reuben Renson died October the 12th, 1955, aged 88.
It's very picturesque with all the old graves, headstones there. There's another one of these very important ones where somebody's had a metal fence around it, and I think that the problem probably with these are that they tend to be unkempt, because it's very difficult to weed them and look after them, and you find so many of them, apart from the fact that they're obviously damaged and rusted over the years, but they people aren't able to stop the weeds and even little trees growing up in amongst them. So perhaps it's a lesson not to have a fence around it. Hello.
Good morning.
There's so much growth on the top of that we can't really read it. Another door at the side here. We've got a porch that's flint, big cross on the top, and then flint and a stone arch, and we've got a metal screen. We've got the black and white tiles, slightly smaller ones, and they're in a diamond pattern. Some little wooden benches along the side. A delightful little window here. That's really nice. Very delicate, and the colours are just lovely. A bit of red there and the yellow. This window is the same. Here on the floor we've got a sign that says the swallows are back, and that's to collect what the swallows are leaving, and the swallows are back up top there, so they'll be nesting there. All this stonework is so nice, these churches. The door looks impressive. That looks very old, that door. This looks very gothic looking. The candles around the columns. One set of plain glass there, leaded. And the tower where the bell ringers ring the bells and ladder going up, and this is all fairly new. I suspect this is all set up like this because the tower has been added a much later period to the rest of the church. Ceiling is partly wood and plaster, whereas a lot of the others have been all wood. The cross hanging there. Got an old stove. It's not fixed up by the look of it. It's a nice old stove. Lots of candles in this church. And a memorial here, lit from behind, so the light is reflecting from behind it. Some nice flowers that somebody's put here. We've got some unusual windows up there, 3 of them, and they've got an unusual shape, a sort of flower shape. And there again, the ceiling is partly plastered and wood. It's very impressive, very effective looking, and different from a lot of the churches we've been looking at recently. The end, which is new, fairly new, doesn't really look out of place. The arch and that wall is obviously much newer than the rest of the church, but it's still is in keeping, even though it's contemporary. We have the font here, which does look old. Now that font, I don't know the history of it. But this font looks older than any font that I have seen recently in a church. And perhaps it came from another church or from a church that was on this site.
It's a 13th century octagonal font of Purbeck marble, supported on 8 columns and a central shaft. It's rather mutilated, but still shows evidence of the 2 locking holes to protect the consecrated water from theft.
Well, that explains it. It's certainly older than the fabric of the church that we're looking at inside. Another 3 windows up there with the same little flower effect. Then the church steps up slightly at the back. Now we've got an area here which looks as if a memorial of some type may have been taken out of it. Certainly nothing that we can read there. So we step up a bit. We've got old stone flagstones here. Now we have got something that we can read. Here lieth the body of Mrs. Judith Wright, wife of Lawrence Wright of Bury St Edmunds, Gent, who died September 1727, aged 39 years. And near this place, southward, lies in the churchyard, was that 172 of their children? No, that can't be right. 12 of their children. 12 of their children. And here lies the body of Lawrence Wright, Gent, one of the capital burghers of the borough of St Edmundsbury, who
served the office of alderman with great honour and justice. He died March the 29th, 1741, aged 64.
And this area is very light.
The mouth by a musket ball when commanding his regiment, the 1st Punjab Cavalry, against the rebels at Kaushi under Sir Hope Grant on the 23rd of March, and died of his wound at Lucknow on April the 10th, 1858, in the 34th year of his age.
Ah. The history here, it just makes a picture of Britain when we had an empire, and the people that came from all these villages and went abroad in the armed forces and as missionaries, and I suppose simply to go out and maybe and work in some of these colonies that we had. Oh, we've got an organ here that looks fairly contemporary, and a leaded window with a beautiful area of stained glass at the top. The ceiling here again is plastered on this one, completely plastered, no wood showing. You can see where the lines perhaps are, where the camera picks it up, but where the wood is underneath. And that ceiling, as I say, is partly plastered. More memorials here. But this area is very light. The two windows at the side and this stained glass window are throwing a lot of light in here. It's very bright. Stained glass window is very grand. It's tall, impressive looking. We've got floor tiles here, glazed ones actually. Almost like a throne here. And a candle. Another church then with half the ceiling plastered and half in wood. This church seems large for the number of pews. Some of the churches have a lot of pews crammed in, and this one seems to be quite large with very few. These pews don't seem very old. They almost look, definitely I think, 20th century. There again, I will be corrected perhaps, hopefully. They've thoughtfully put curtains at the doors, keep the drafts out. Another visitor's book that we'll sign. And a lovely thatched cottage opposite the church. With a telephone box that perhaps these days is never used. It's amazing that within the space of 15 years phone boxes have become redundant, public phone boxes that is. Oh, and a local bus. So there's a Suffolk church that's slightly unusual in as much that it's a flint building with a more contemporary brick tower.